Hi guys, happy Thursday. Yeah, happy Thursday. So, alright. We went over the Crooked Sixpence, which is really interesting. Really interesting to me anyway. So now we have, this is even more interesting, the Path of the Outcast. So this right here, it just sums up everything in my life. From childhood all the way up until now. So, yeah, somebody asked, what am I doing? What am I reading from? It is a book for the modern grimoire for modern cunning folk, I think. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's notes. So I just take notes, and it turns out writing the whole book. So this is really interesting, though. So the Path of the Outcast. So one of the aspects of walking the crooked path is rarely addressed in books, is the sense of being an outcast, obviously. So what we're talking about is that the sense of being isolated, of being alone when you're in a crowd. Even when within a crowd of pagans, you'll sit, apart from them. You feel like there's something between you and them that stops you from being a part of it. So you feel very much alone, and it can be very disconnecting, or depressing, and disconnecting, especially when you're not sure. You're not sure where it's coming from. So what causes this? I can't read my own writing. Sorry, guys. So what causes this? Because it seems to be a very universal experience that many people have as they get deeper into a pagan or magical path. So it gets better. Trust me. So, and there are some very practical reasons for why this should occur. First is that if you're following a magical path, you're going through experiences that you're going through experiences that can only be shared with others who have already been there before you. So because nobody else would really understand. So there are also experiences that you just don't have the words to explain. That even somebody else who's been there, you can't really talk about it either, because you can't find the words. Kinda, yeah, I've experienced that a lot. So you just have to hope that they've, get the gist of that, been through enough that they know what you're talking about, or what you're trying to say, and get the gist of that thing. I cannot talk today whatsoever. So, and then of course, if you have friends who aren't pagan, if you talk to them about your experiences, they're going to think you're a little flaky. Even those who are pagan friendly might or may not really, understand what you're talking about. It's true, they won't. And make light of it and make you feel uncomfortable in some way. So without meaning to, of course. And this can get really depressing. It is. So he says here, I've known people who have had a terrible time, and this isn't something that goes away. I think I should warn you about this. So the thing is, even people who are pagan don't always understand it. If you're not going into it as deeply as you are, if they aren't. So you see, our path is tailored to us. The traditional craft is tailored to us. Our personal needs, all of it. So we tailor it to suit our own needs. So even when we're in a coven or some other kind of group, it's still really just a bunch of individuals who happen to be traveling in the same direction for a while. It's interesting, isn't it? So, it's a bit like caravanning or carpooling, a road trip. So you didn't start out with these people. You may not end up with these people, but right now, we all happen to be going to the same place at the same time. And so you travel together for convenience, but you're still very much an individual traveling along your own path. So there are also some magical reasons for this. Most people who practice a pagan belief system, at the very least, work with meditation, altered states of consciousness. So those who follow a magical path can add to this practice, such as walking between the worlds, astral travel, and other ways of actively exploring the realms. So there's old for people. Okay, what did I write here? There's old for people who do this sort of thing. No clue what I wrote there. So they used to be called hedge walkers or hedge riders until fairly recently, the last 150 years ago, in the UK. Movement from place to place was very restricted for common folk. Only the gentry, tinkers, and craftsmen could travel from place to place without the permission from the lord of the manor. So craftsmen, of course, included healers, cunning folk, and the like. So basically, yeah, it's, in other words, people like all of us. So magical folks, metaphorically and sometimes literally, so live on the outskirts of society. Most find it hard to relate to non-magical folk. It is really hard. Right from the beginning, that's how they get into a pagan or magical lifestyle, because they finally found they could find people that could relate, and so they get deeper in their studies. They find this difficulty becomes much more pronounced. Jesus Christ. So people drawn to this path usually have a vicarious appetite for learning. On a purely practical level, it's easier to indulge this in solitude. Yeah, it is. Very much so. So you see, those who are initiated into a tradition of any sorts, be it Gardnerian Wicca, Alexandrian Wicca, blah blah blah, any other sort of Wicca or traditional witchcraft or any other magical path, are twice born. So they're set apart in the same way that the chosen people, the Hebrew people, consider themselves set apart by God. So yeah, that's very true too. This automatically puts up a barrier between us and mundane folk. So yeah, we're different, which is why we begin to mix only with those who are like us, because it's easier to mix with people where there's less of a barrier. It's just human nature. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's sad in a way. I think that's all I got on there. Yeah, for the path of the outcast. It's really interesting. I mean, it is. That was a really interesting passage. I found very enlightening. Just why people feel, abandoned and left out, and very true. It is very, very true. So yeah, I don't know. Let's do some coffee talk. But yeah, I just thought it was pretty interesting. I think I'm out of cigarettes. Shit, I am. Well, that sucks. I'm already sweating. Okay. Alright, so do you guys experience that at all? I'm sure everybody does, especially people that follow a pagan path. Us. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's getting better as I go through the book. I mean, it's just kind of like layman's terms of what, Jim and Gary would write. But the next is going to be even better, I think. I can't wait to actually start on the Children of Cain. I think that's really interesting. And then he goes into this guy and, a modern guide for the cunning folk. He goes really far into witch blood. And it's really, really interesting. I love his take on it. And how, you have to study. You can't just, boom, okay, I'm entitled to it because I have witch blood. You have to study. If you want immense power, if you want all that, you have to, again, study. It just does not come naturally. I mean, some of it does, parts. But you're not gonna, boom. No, you have to practice. Read, practice, learn. Alright, now where are my comments at? I wish I could find the ones that I really wanted to respond